All right, so hello everyone. Welcome back. All right, so this will be the last last review for the video. By the way, so this will only cover the last matter, which will be the restricted queue, the double-ended queue, which means that we do have here then the input and the output restricted queue or the double-ended queue. So now, regarding with this, isa-isahon tani siya. So for input restricted queue class, since um, it is actually do have you can the queue in our insertion, it's actually open both end, so that means we are following the principles of the FIFO principle, which means we can insert at both end, both front and both rear end. And for output restricted queue, we can also insert at both end, and we can delete FIFO principle, FIFO rule. For FIFO rule naman sa deletion, we only delete at front end. But in input restricted queue, we are only inserting FIFO. That means we can insert at the rear end. We're not allowed to insert at front end. The same as is with the output restricted queue, that we are not allowed to delete at last end. That is actually what how the double-ended queue work. So it is not following the FIFO principle, since both end is um, open. So there will be insertions at end, insertions at front, deletion at end, and deletions at front. So regarding on that, the method that we are using that if you will implement that through Java will be the add first, add last, poll first, poll last, something like that. Or remove first, remove last, get last, get no, not get, because get just only return the that only return or print the thing. So remove last, remove on, that will be the other one. Let's try to check here. That will be um poll first and poll last. So that will be the thing in our FIFO prints in our input and output restricted double-ended queue. So now let's try to point it out already. So let's try to see. Let's try to do first the insertion. We first offer last 10, 20, 30, and we have the maximum size 3, and offer first 40, remove first one time, remove last one time the same, and add last 50, and pick and pull. Now, let's try to work on it one by one. So first then, we initialize our queue as both front and rear is equals to -1, both the same thing as this. So, excuse me, pertaining to that one class, after you initialize for the input restricted queue, this is for input restricted queue, ha? Remember, we are so that means that we can only insert FIFO principle, that only insert at the last end, and cannot insert at front end. For deletion, we can insert delete at both end. Now let's try to figure it out. Once we insert the 10, so our front and rear will become 0, both 0. That, since that is actually in our index 0. Now, once we insert number 20 right now, so our queue, we insert 20, so that will become something like that. So 10, 20, front is 0, and rear will become 1. So that's how you will update. And of course, please make sure to always do that step by step as always, class. Then offer last 30. So it means that we can insert at end 30. So 10, 20, 30, the same as this. And of course, front end will become 0, still the same thing. And rear point, will become number 2 then. Now, after that one, since we are following the FIFO principle and we are doing here the insertion at first, which will be 40. So that means we cannot insert that in our front end, since we can only insert following the FIFO principle at endpoint. So therefore, you will only return cannot insert. So that's how you will do in offer first 40. So regardless class na maximum size mo is 3, so you will not put there max overflow, because of course due to the fact that offer first 40 is not allowed due to the restrictions that we do have in our in our input restricted DQ. Now let's move on. We cannot insert, we cannot put overflow with that, okay? Now let's move on to the remove first one time. So since we can delete both element, so remove first. So when we say first, the front end, so that will become, you will remove the 10 and left element will be the 20 and 30. So that means the front end will become 1 and the rear end will become number 2. Next will be the remove last one time. So since both end are open, so that means we can remove at last. So at last end will be the 30. So remove 30 then. So the left element will be the 20. So now the front end will become 1 and the rear end will become 1, the same as this. The next thing will be return peak. The peak right now will be the 20, since that will be the only thing that we do have right there. So 20, that's the element. And don't forget to also make sure to put where is it located. And we can locate that class in our, no. That's not what I mean first. We will begin to do first the add last 50. I'm so sorry. So 20, add last 50. So since we can insert that at end, since FIFO principle, so 2050, and our front end will become 1 and our rear will become 2. So after that, we'll perform the peak operation. The peak operation just only return the front element. So that means 20 will be our front end, and that is located in what index? That will be at index 1. So that's how you will do the peak operation class. And for isful operation, compare is your queue size right now, this one, is it equals to your maximum size? So the maximum size is 3, therefore is not equals yet, so therefore returns as false. Okay, that's how it works. Now, that's the end of our input restricted EQ. That's actually so simple. Hopefully you gain something about the input restricted EQ. If you do have some questions about that, you may ask through MS Team. So let's move on now with the output restricted EQ, or the double-ended queue of output, which means that we can only insert at, we can insert at both end, and we can only delete at one end, which means we are following the FIFO rule for deletion. So for deletion naman, FIFO principle, we can only delete at front end. We cannot delete at rear end. So we will do this one, this problem, maximum size of 3, and we add last 10 and 20, and we add first 30. We remove last one time, and we remove first one time, and we add last 40, and we do peak and is full operation. So that's the thing that we'll begin to do. First thing first, remember the restrictions. Insert will be both element, and deletion will be following the FIFO principle. So let's do the initialization steps. For initialization step, front end and rear end will become -1, since that signifies that no value is being added into our queue yet. Now, maximum size is 3, so be mindful with regards to that one class. So now let's move on. We add last the number 10. So we add last 10, so that means 10 will be our front 0, and rear will become 0 as the same thing. Next, 20. We add last 20, so since we can insert at both end, so 10, 20 our element right now, and front will become 0, and rear will become as 1. So that's actually so simple. Next will be the remove last. I mean, add first 30. So for add first 30, with our principles there, we can insert at both, so we can insert that at front end. So it will become 30, 20, 10, 20, something like that. And of course, copy as is, those inserted element, bring mo lang na siya forward. And front end class will become 0, and rear end will become 2. That's how it works then. Now, let's move on to the remove last one time. Remember that deletion in output restricted decay, we are following the FIFO principle. That means we can only delete at rear position. So remove last, therefore, we can remove the 20, which will be the last element. So it means 10, no. I'm so sorry. Um, I stand corrected regarding that. Um, the removing of the element in our deletion in our output restricted, let me correct that we cannot remove at last end. Hence, we can only remove at front end since we are following the FIFO principle. Do not, excuse me, don't be too confused with that. Now, once we remove last one time, we cannot remove that one since due to the restrictions that we cannot remove at last. So we can remove at first only. Now, let's move on. Remove first one time. So once we remove first one time, so that means the first element will be removed. So remove first will be the 30. So we remove the 30 and the element will be left there, the 10 and 20. So that means our front end will become 1 and our rear will become 2. So that's, we are following the simple Q method for the locations. Now we add last 40 since we can insert at both ends. So 10 to 40 and our front end will become 1 and rear will become 3. So that's 3 class ha. Hindi na siya 2. That's 3. That's 3. So our rear 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now, once we do the peak element, once you do this one, you just return the front end, which will be the 10. So 10 is actually there at index where? We are we can found that at index 1. So therefore, put that as well. Index 1, the element 10. And is full operation? How about this full operation? Does your Q size right now, is it equals to the maximum size? If yes, you return that as true. If not, false. So that's how you will organize that one. So always remember the restriction and be mindful class in our examination. You don't have to worry about that because there are actually hints that I posted into your into the items right there. I put there the insert both and delete FIFO. So just always remember those things. So hindi na ka muna mabudlayan kay may something hints na for output and input restricted DQ. So you just have to familiarize and be mindful with the process itself. So anyway, if you do have any questions regarding on that, you might, I mean, you can actually message me in our teams since I will make sure to also answer your questions right there. And by the way, last thing, I will also, let me also give you a hint regarding with your coding that I'm not actually asking the whole code that you need to provide all of those public class, main static, something like that. No. You don't have to do everything as like that. In our operations for coding class, it's okay if you will be going to, like, for example, you will do the import function. You will just only put the import, then initialization step, how to initialize the method. And after initialization of those functions, for example, in our DQ, we offer last, something like that. Something or ano to siya nga mga method, something like that, or remove at begin, and what will be the element that you will begin to something specified. That's something as like that. So always remember to study those particular method. In that way, you can also familiarize those somewhat, and it will be easy for you then. So thank you so much, everyone. That ends for today. information.